presents to you Honest Talk.
Hello folks, today we got the privilege to listen from Mr. R. Vaidyanathan RV, Senior Director Cognizant, former President of BCI India Chapter and Steering Committee member of BCI India Next Practice. He is a winner of Disaster Recovery International DRI USA Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020, winner of Continuity Insurance and Risk CIR Lifetime Achievement Award in 2019, BCI's Industry Personality of the Year India and South Asia in 2015, 2016 and 2019, and Global in 2019, BCI Hall of Fame 2019 awarded in the Industry Personality category, Honorary Fellow of BCI MBCP, currently the Senior Director and Head for Global BCM GRC and Client Services at Cognizant Technology Solutions. So let's begin our talk with Mr. R. Vaidyanathan RV.
So first of all, thank you so much, sir, for joining and agreeing to share your thoughts with us. It is really a great matter of pride, and we are extremely very happy to have you for today's talk.
Absolutely, I'm also delighted to be with you on this particular topic that we have chosen, which is quite current, and I'm sure people who are watching this would be able to get some inputs and insights of what we are going to discuss now.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir, moving to the topic of today's discussion, which we have chosen, are organization resilient? Are they proactive enough to handle any large incident like COVID? So, sir, moving to my first question, I think if you have experienced so much, so, sir, I would like to put my first question here. I think that is the most common and is most important question, which is, sir, how, because it has affected everything, so we are currently focusing on technology sector. So, sir, my first question is how COVID-19 has affected the technology sector?
Okay, good question. So, if you have to look at it, it's not just only the technology sector. The world over, across industries, across sectors, it has impacted. So specifically, people were looking at it as a risk initially, and rather, if you look at it, the COVID is a different kind of situation altogether. Unlike the earlier MERS-CoV or the SARS that was there, where there was a pattern and they were able to get on to a situation where a vaccine is available quite soon, and the very nature of COVID is it mutates and go into multiple versions and all those, and till now the vaccine not available. That's the reason that in the tough situation that we are in today. And this is highly pervasive and also inherent in its complexities. That's where people saw that as a risk, and also it has significant impact on countries and markets and different businesses. So coming back to your question, it is more likely in terms of technology, because for the very reason the work from home enablement, which predominantly depends on the technology. So how would that got impacted from a technology perspective is a very good question, and I would rather look at it more from a opportunity perspective, and that's how almost most of the organizations, the IT sectors, they looked at it in terms of gearing up to this situation of meeting the challenge. And specifically, I also hear most of the organizations, IT, coped up very well in terms of enabling the work from home, right from the capacity in terms of balancing it, improving it to meager 20-25% of whatever that was originally thought about, and to an extent of 90-95%. It's not an easy job. So to that extent, I would rather think of impact that has happened towards the technology perspective. And as early as March 2020, if you look at it, giant enterprises like Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google or Twitter and Uber, everybody had been able to react or respond to the situation, have come up with 50-80% of work from home enablement right at that point in time. And having said that, when you come back to India, the top IT firms have highlighted that their work from home has been to the tune of 90%, as against across different sectors. We talk about technology, they've been able to probably make it 90%, and rather the across different sectors been 70%. This is one of the survey from NASSCOM Insights that I understand that this is the way it is. And typically on a technology front, again, from BFSI, which is the banking, financial, and insurance sector, the IT, ITES, and the global consulting company. These are the ones that specifically were able to cope up with it quite fast and have been able to deliver what the customer wanted. So this is again a KPMG survey. I just don't want to put my own and quite a few things that's available all over the net and also on the survey and very many webinars that talks about this. One on the side of the technology perspective, where technology companies got impacted and major corporates were able to probably cope up with it. On the other side of it, if you look at it, medium and small medium enterprises company, which got impacted, and all those startups which were in the technology area. And nowadays you see the young bloods, they want to be their own entrepreneurs, like the way that you are in terms of looking at your YouTube channel and all those. That's a way that people are looking at a technology perspective, and a young startup, if I say a young startup less than 5 years, or those, they were impacted quite highly. And those who had a solid customer base were able to cope up with that quite well, because again, customers was understanding in terms of how well they can deliver on all those and the flexibility that was coming up. So another survey that it talks about, almost 90% of the startups were facing a decline, and 30 to 40% were almost trying to halt the complete operation because of inability to continue. And a wait and watch situation is something that has been looked at. And the worst hit was on the travel and tourism. And of course, all those technology-based companies, and today, if you look at it, this particular work from home has become a kind of a new normal, or a next normal, as the people would call it, because that's the only way out in terms of social distancing, in terms of connecting virtually, and also to see that whatever is delivered to the customer is delivered up to the customer expectation. So having said that, there was an initial level of impact on the technology sector, but because of their capability to adapt towards the capacity and in terms of building a reactive resilience, they have been able to cope up with it. And today, they've been able to manage quite well in terms of the delivery that they need to do it for the customers.
Absolutely, sir. You have given so much valuable information. So, sir, same context, I would like to put my next question to you. Sir, what do you think our organizations are how much prepared to fight this crisis?
Okay. See, again, if you talk about the business continuity plans, that's what in general they address it in terms of any kind of scenario. This is happening to be a pandemic scenario, where if you ask me whether organizations were ready with that pandemic plan, answer would be yes. In the sense, to the extent of say 25-30% of absenteeism. And that's one thing of a risk appetite, or a kind of a vision that organization had. That again, I would say, I would like to probably bring up a point where always the business continuity plan or a business continuity management or a resilience, that is a one point that is required, is always being driven by the contractual obligation or a regulation that is in vogue. If there is no regulation, if there is no customer expectation, BCP goes to the back seat. And this situation, I think, probably brought it from a back seat to a driver's seat, I would say, because of the kind of impact and the prolonged time that it was actually. Even now, we are not too sure as to when it would get controlled. And that's a reason that you and me are here talking about it. And similarly, in the organization, if you look at it, right from the CEO, the leadership level, onto the new joinees who have been into the organization, were on their toes and running pillar to post to see that how well they can start working and deliver things to the customer. So if I go back to the plan perspective, yes, initially when it came in, people thought it would probably be controlled within the 25-30% of situation just by applying their business continuity plan. But then slowly, when it came into a situation of a lockdown and a multiple locations failure, the strategy of handing it over to another city where they have an operation or something to a different country, all those started failing. And typically the absenteeism of 35% went on to about 100%. And typically the business continuity risk snowballed into a situation of a business risk and a survival of the organization where a recovery was to be done close to 100%. So neither the customer nor the organization were expecting this much of an impact during this, and a lockdown was not expected at all. Of course, few of them were coming back and asking if in case a lockdown happens, are you prepared? I mean, I would appreciate those customers who thought it optimistic or rather beyond the vision and then wanted to find out that. And now that we are into 100 plus days of lockdown and have been able to cope up with it, the preparations have been quite reactive, I would say, in base of whatever that they had in place. And the event and crisis are happening across the world, not just only the COVID. And we also seen a couple of other things that is coming up. I don't want to go into nitty-gritties of it, but then we have been able to cope up with it. And today, on an early warning perspective, we had in India at least those organizations that had an opportunity to learn from their office operating out of China and other locations where they've been able to cope up with it, and then early risk assessment that was done for the worst scenario within India. And if you see, even Indian government and all those were able to probably proactively plan, and the lockdown was happening. Even our Mr. Modi also had a kind of a one-day shutdown to just prepare ourselves and all those. From there it started, and specifically looking at the worst scenario and the kind of continuity, the only strategy that is working well fine now is a work from home strategy. But how well it's going to survive, or is it going to be the new normal, and is it going to be the same level of operation that is going to be delivered to the customer? All those are a situation that we need to wait and watch. And typically when we see during the situation, there have been a lot of innovative ideas that came in. One is the laptop. So laptop shortages were there, and all at a time, every organization ordering for laptop, the delivery are coming, and at the same time, the regulation of anything that comes into the airport for consignment, that has to be quarantined for 14 days, and then the release has to happen. All those challenges opened up new set of strategies of moving the desktop back home. And that was reactive. Nobody thought about it, that it would be happening. And quite a few organizations in the initial stages were trying to reroute the non-critical functions laptop to the critical functions, without even knowing at a later stage the non-critical functions also will become critical. So I think there's a few learning that came in, and on a reactive basis, immediately they were able to sense that, and number of laptops, number of desktops, so non-critical functions had the desktop moved back home. Or finally, if I have my own device, BYO, bring your own device, there's something also that came in, and a VDI, virtual data interface. So all those were something new that came in. So if I have to probably provide information of what is the preparedness to what was done, I believe one is the proactive preparedness. The next one is based on experience. The reactive preparedness helped them. The 2 to 3 weeks of hard work helped organization to be on its feet. And today, with that first initial level of impact, I would say most of the organizations, which is big, have been able to deliver to the customers and have been able to manage with whatever the actual obligations and the regulations that need to be followed. And that's what is going to be done. But I'm not too sure. WHO predicts a second wave that could come at any point in time. Our organizations taking that as proactively based on the lessons learned as of now. It's again a big question, because quite a few organizations are in a hurry to get back to office, to bring people back into the office. Though their planning first is about whatever people commit, say about 100 people commit that they will come back to office and work. What happens is the real day when the actual work has to start, almost 50% of the people turn up, and rest of them have a family pressure saying that no, don't go to office, you work from home. Anyway, it's working from home, you just continue. But that's the kind of situation as it is. So preparedness, though, will be prepared as and when the situation unveils. We need to probably be able to improve our plans on the line and adapt to the situation and try and see how well we can tide over these tough times.
All right, sir. Sir, when I was collecting the question for this session, one question I found the common in all platforms, and I think I should put it into this session. The question is how this pandemic is hurting the jobs of people. Sir, it will be better if you could tell us about how it is going to affect and what will be the type of future jobs.
See, if you look at in the current situation, see, this is always impacting at all levels in the countries, markets, and businesses that you see. So, for a business to survive, you need to have enough revenue. So, how it is being delivered and how is the customer relation that basically works out for them. And in terms of the sectors that you see and the job cut, if you ask me, yes, it is there. That's what we see on the news, and quite a few people are having job cuts, and also specifically in the area where niche skills are required. I mean, people who are in the older generation, some of the survey, if I can probably quote, the International Labour Organization, based on the second wave, it says almost about 340 million full-time jobs will be lost. It's something that's coming up. I'm not trying to probably bring up this and then panic people, but the point is, do we have a plan in place? But I would rather think of this in a positive way, that when people have got skills in the digital and technological world, they themselves get geared for that skills, they would be in a position to probably switch over from this point to another point. Supposing today I lose a job and there is another job that is waiting for me, I need to improve the skill and get onto that job. And also on a LinkedIn survey, I see about the older generation people. They in general have a lack of, I would say, the security in job, and then wanted to quit after the post-COVID situation. This is more of, I'm talking about the Gen X and the baby boomers, I mean, who have been in the older generation. Same way, the younger generation, they wanted to wait and watch, and specifically in terms of the millennials and the Gen Z people, they wanted to probably wait because of the technical skills, probably the digital skills and technology. They can either clip onto an organization or they can start on their own, like the way it is, the entrepreneurs and whatever. I mean, I think quite a few things have come. If you see the app, if you see the technology, all those are coming up with few entrepreneurs of younger generation. And I would rather think of, even if these older generation probably quits, I mean, that could be replaced by the newer generation with better skills and all those. So job cuts may happen, but again, there is a kind of a rotation that would happen. That's the way the cycle it goes in. That would be my personal opinion, and that's the way it is. And once a person who is very good at in the technology space and he knows what he's supposed to do and deliver, and his role is not redundant in the organization, and he brings out a niche skill in the organization, the job cuts may not happen. But on the other side, from a management perspective, there could be a view that they need to cut down expenses, and looking at the number of people and the redundant roles, they might probably still do it. But it's again a temporary measure. We have seen many such things earlier in the different incidents altogether, and innovation is the key. So whoever innovates, right from me, if I have to start with some innovation, I bring up some splendid and brilliant idea, and I am there to stay. So that's the only thing, and have confidence in each and every person that wherever they are, they would have to probably look at a better opportunity where they can fit in and then go across. This may not be a kind of a panic situation, and this will also pass as the way many other things have passed by, and we can see some good light at the end of the tunnel.
So we can conclude that it will give rather an opportunity to more startups to emerge. They will take this as an opportunity.
Absolutely. If you look at it, today I see a couple of internet cafe where just a browsing center that was happening. And the other day I was speaking to a guy locally in one of the shops, and he said, "Sir, if I probably spend some initial amount and try and build this as an office space and just provide this internet connectivity and whatnot. People are working from home. If working from home fails, man, can I provide this office space and they can come and work here? Yes, with the security built up, and if you're secure and organization agrees to it, it can happen. I think a couple of internet cafes already looking at it from that perspective. So it's just money thinking innovatively. You can always look at getting onto a different dimension in different areas.
All right, sir. So, sir, one question also, which is recently a common and having a fear of those who are students, those who are in their final year of their courses, those who want to get placed. But do you think, sir, it will affect the placement opportunities?
I would say it would be a temporary thing for the next couple of months or a couple of quarters. It could be a challenge, but what I also understand in my own experience in quite a few organizations, the offers that were given during last year and earlier, whatever that is left, released during late 2019 and early 2020s are being honored, and onboarding is happening for quite a number of people who have been already in the campus recruitment, whatever that has happened. And few other bigger organizations globally, I've seen they are still doing that virtually instead of going into physical campus interview and all those. Few cases it's happening virtually, but not in all the cases. But nevertheless, one is the on-campus, another off-campus is something when we talk about a recruitment, that's still happening. I know at different levels and different areas, not just only the freshers, but even at a lateral entrance and a senior position also is happening virtually. So it's just a question of, as I said, if you have the right skills at any point in time, you would be able to get it. So temporarily, yes, I would say the kind of campus recruits and those kind of placements that was probably being confirmed earlier would probably be a challenge for the next couple of quarters, and we need to wait and watch on that.
All right, sir. So, sir, one question I also like to put it here. What advice or what message would you convey to those students, those who are still in their college? What type of skill they must learn in these, because there is a new type of scenario, and we are looking for different scenario. So, what type of skill they must learn in their college days?
Yeah. So typically one is learning, another one is more of experience. And I think the millennial people are already experiencing a lot of uncertainties and the incidents right from, if you talk about the WTC, the World Trade Center incident, to a lot of things from a tsunami, Fukushima and all those situations, to the Chennai deluge and the recent, whatever that you can see, Irma or any other Hong Kong protest, and all those has generally made these people, in terms of people are always on social media, right? When they are updated and they know what is to be done, and more of a kind of inborn capability that comes in. That is the way forward. You need to probably be innovative, improve your skills, and be abreast with the latest information and whatever is happening over the globe. I mean, that's one thing I would say. Just the second one is, on the learning perspective, many organization institutions are looking at having some curriculum in terms of the business continuity or a resilience, and specifically, maybe it might be optional. The only thing I would rather urge all the college people is something that they need to focus on that and take this optional subject and also get to know what it is, because without this, with all other core areas, if this is not going to be available for them, it could probably be a challenge. So if that is also learned, and what is that, structured learning is always better than just going by experience. So I would rather think of, if this is a curriculum that's available in their college as an institution, and also many other not-for-profit organizations are working towards working for the institutions, which probably focuses on the business continuity and the resilience part of it. This could probably be leveraged on, and it's only that the respective student need to focus on that particular area to get this particular skill and try and see how well they can improve. That is one from the continuity perspective. The other one is digital and the technology perspective. Whatever that is required, for us to survive. And we see everything digital. And present COVID, if you look at it, right from the transaction that is happening, no more cash, everything is on digital. That happened right from the demonetization stage. We were ready. Everybody, even in the urban or a city side or a village side, they are ready. And today, from a GPI to a Google Pay to the UPI and all those are happening. So everything is on digital, and you and me are on a virtual meeting right now, and that's on technology platform. So if you are able to bring out that particular skill in future, right, and voice system, I don't have to touch any. It's a contactless solution that I need to bring in. And if that base is available with the specific student in whatever area that you are getting into, that technology is there to stay. And I would say, urge that those people have to focus on it. This would be my suggestion.
All right, sir. It is already a wonderful advice. So, sir, my next question to you is, as we are talking about college students, so recently we have seen there is a scenario which recently emerged as those who are still in their courses, third year, second year, they start their own venture, company, something like that, in their college days, side by side, along with their studies. So, sir, how do you look at it?
So I think, man, I would rather think of at this point in time, they need to probably put that in the backseat. I mean, right now, because things have to settle down. As I was saying, most of the startup companies, of course, government is there to probably support, and in terms of a lot of schemes that they have, they've been able to give some tax benefits or kind of a holiday thing for rent paying and all those, especially from the zones of SEZ and all CPI, whatever area. But typically, if they have to do it, it need not have to be their career at this point in time. They need to focus on studies first and then complete it and wait and watch and then get into that area. But nevertheless, this is again is going to be temporary. Today, there is no vaccine that's available. And just be here from the news that in August, there could be a vaccine for COVID. Once the vaccine is available, I would rather think of a situation where I am impacted. I means the organization is impacted. The organization's customer is impacted. Customer as a vendor to their customer is impacted. So it's an entire supply chain that is impacted. So having said that, because of that situation, all things that we are having in terms of flexibility, work from management and all that's going on, the people call it as a new normal or next normal, is helping them out. But then when things coming, not just that, even the regulation part, if you look at it, connectivity that you and me are doing it from work from home right now, man, Department of Telecommunication has relaxed this particular, because there is a requirement as per regulation that they need to keep track of what connectivity, what not from an organization perspective. If I'm going to do from multiple different offices, home offices, it's going to be difficult for DOT. And they've been flexible until July. They have given permission to probably work on, and that need to get extended. And they cannot do it for long because there's a huge regulation impact that they would have. Same way, the taxation part of it. If I'm probably having an organization working and 10 different people working in a team and in particular city, and from the organization perspective, they pay the professional tax for that particular city based on the particular tax scheme of that particular city. Now, this 10 people get split into 5 different cities and work from 5 different areas. And because of working from 5 different areas, the professional tax has to be paid based on different states' scheme, the way it is. So that also is relaxed at this point in time, but again, it's going to be pretty difficult in terms of getting. So all these things put together will come back as an old normal quite soon, but nevertheless, the new normal is there to stay. The percentage of 90-95% today will probably go back and drop to 25 to 30% again back, and rest of the 70%, if things are normal and all those flexibility that came from the customer, vendors, customer supply chain, all those will go back and say, now that everything is fine, let us go back to office. Let us have a stringent testing. And the technology that got relaxed in terms of a connectivity, in terms of whatever was available at premium earlier, which was now available at 50%, all those will go back to old normal. So having said that, why I'm bringing up that point is the student need to wait till such time that things get okay. And at that point in time, when you see getting onto entrepreneurship is not a bad idea at all. But today, if something has to happen, yes, still it can happen if they are in the healthcare education area, which is booming right now, or in the education segment itself, while teaching all those virtually that could happen, they can get into these two sectors is my humble advice.
It is another wonder advice from your side. So sir, my next question to you, what can be the best learning for all of us from this pandemic?
Okay. First of all, I think this particular COVID has taught us complete discipline and I would say the personal hygiene in terms of washing your hands. I mean, even with my own children back home, how many ever times that I tell them to wash their hands and this thing before anything when they come back home. They don't do it always. But today, even without telling, they do it. I mean, that's a kind of personal hygiene that comes in, the kind of fear that comes in to people who actually take the advice. But there are still a set of people who doesn't even look at it, and still we are having a problem. And today, if you see almost about numbers that you see in terms of infections and all those, I mean, that's because of that. I mean, if I take a particular discipline, the personal hygiene and the work and life balances that we have, and more of a low touch and high digital, these are the things that at the first level COVID has taught us. That's a one important learning. And back home in the organization, if I have to look at from a learning perspective, it is that there was an early warning for most of the organizations right from China, and it was pretty delayed that we got it in India, quite late. And also in quite a few organization or country, it was pretty late. And have they really taken this early warning as something important and planned quite upfront? But the point is, organizations back again, there has to be a kind of a early warning that need to be considered. I mean, today, if you look at it, the early warning is not considered. Why should I invest? Why should I do that? But everything happened during the incident. But this should change, and that's what is the learning that this has got it. And complete horizon scanning that has to happen every time in terms of scanning it. Assessment has to happen quite regularly, and all those, and the importance of early warning that need to be provided, and decision of whatever that need to be taken in terms of today. This is a threat. This is the risk, and this is what we need to do it. What is the decision? The leaders will have to definitely take a kind of a situation and decide at that point in time, taking the complete accountability. This was again one of the learning. Most of the leaders swung into action, quite adaptive, because it was not just a BCP risk, it is a business continuity risk transformed into a business risk. And everybody swung into action to see that delivery happens, all those. So having said that, today again in the next normal, whatever that we are seeing, that resilience is something that is very important. This may probably stay for another 8 months, 1 year. I should be working from home. So currently, if I'm speaking to you and the network goes off or the power goes off, what is the situation? We'll be off. So here it's okay. We can always connect back and then probably make use of it. But in a real-time situation on a client delivery, something happens, something need to be delivered on time. All those need to be looked at proactively. This is what that this particular COVID has taught us in terms of being proactive, not just only from minimum level. And most of them said, I've thrown out my BC plan. Work from home is there. I will always go with that. And 90% is always my capacity. But it's not going to be on. There are always the challenges back home. And today, maybe I'm privileged and I've got the luxury to sit in a separate room with my AC on and talking to you. But not all has got that. Man, just only one room. 4 of them are working, 4 of them on the same place, and a meeting. All those happens within the same room, and it's going to be a challenge. And the house cannot become a corporate office. So all these have to be thought about. As Soho kind of a thing is also something that need to be thought about, not just a work from home situation. And ergonomics, chairs. I think quite a few innovation that has come in is a few organizations has given a kind of allowance, and when office resume, bring your own chair. You buy that now and bring the chair back to office, or chairs are provided back there. And a lot of things, allowances are provided. These kind of things are something that need to be thought upfront proactively, especially from a resilience perspective. Moving from a continuity to a resilience is something that is looked at. So what is resilience? It needs to be probably, we have survived this situation and now we are stabilizing it. We need to rebuild and be resilient for the organization, for which I said already, the innovation is something we need to look at. If I can pick up this COVID-19 itself as a part of overall understanding. So the COVID as an acronym, CO as a community management, where organizations need to collaborate with multiple other interested parties. Like today, from an organization perspective, I need to probably work with my neighbor. If I'm a shared shared building, and I need to ensure the fellow organization, the neighbor organization also are prepared in terms of meeting the COVID and whatever hygiene and the cleaning and the fumigation, common areas, usage, and all those need to be probably focused upon. And it has to be a collective way of responding to this incident. That's what is the first thing that I would talk about. The second one is possibly from a CO to a V. V is the vendor management or a supplier chain, whatever that you're looking at. In terms of I need to manage with my own vendor who need to probably provide me with respective deliveries. Like in this current situation of COVID, we saw laptop delivery and all those, where a lot of processes that need to undergo, and that should be a proactive mechanism that will be put in place. And specifically, I can get that on a drop shipment where a particular point of contact can contact the supplier, and that thing can be delivered, and the paperwork and all those can happen a bit later to save on time. That could be one other area in terms of building up the resilience in that area. And the next one comes in the I. So COVID. I is the innovation. Innovation is something, and out-of-box thinking is something we need to look at. And typically, from what is the best way forward, a tool that could probably help us in terms of working from home, or the new normal, or the business model that can change, or like the way I suggested, the bring your own chair is something that is there. An office can probably be in a mobile vans, you don't know, and certain places, a hub kind of a location where I need to probably go back if my work from home fails, and then I just get into that and then use the connectivity and work on. That would be the way that innovation can probably be there. And the last T is the distributed continuity, the business continuity, because earlier it used to be organization which was owning the complete risk of the network, power, everything together. But the point today is it has become multiple offices, and the risk got transferred to the individual. And I need to probably follow up in terms of setting my internet right, setting my power right, everything to again back with the delivery part of it. So there has to be a mechanism to reassess the risk in the new normal, work from home. What are the controls that is required in terms of an inverter, allowance that could be provided by organization, or a SOHO kind of a thing can be set up finally, and then go on. So the point is, again, bringing up the 19 part. There's one important thing which I thought would probably help people watching this is, if you remember, the 2001 was the time that WTC incident happened, and that was an eye-opener for business continuity management to be getting a kind of a birth in India at least. Same way, after 19 years, we have this situation of COVID-19, which is going to probably help us to move from a continuity to a resilience. In terms of failing, I might fail. I should ensure that I should not fail. If at all I fail, I need to bounce back immediately. And that's what happened in this situation. Organization never expected to this kind of an impact. They were prepared only for 20-30%, but over a period of a month or even 40 days, they were able to probably bounce back with that 90 to 95% of work from enablement. And that's happened. And that's what happened reactively. So using this acronym, I just wanted to probably bring in community management, to a vendor management, to a innovation management, to a distributed business continuity, which after 19 years, it has come as a overall eye-opener for us to move to the organization resilience. So we need to capitalize on the situation and try and get the organization resilient. So resilience means it has to be resilient at all levels. Every function in the organization need to have a resilience. The culture itself has to change. The leadership need to probably bring in that adaptive change that has to be there. Innovation that I was talking about has to be there. Financially, it has to be thought about in terms of budgets and all those. And continuous horizon scanning that has to happen. And typically on a vendor and supplier management, that has to have proper vision, the culture, the objective, everything need to be there as a cycle of 16 different dimensions. That is what is all about organization resilience. That's an important learning that we have got through this particular COVID. Still on, the learning doesn't end, it keeps on going. So what is in store, we do not know. But only one thing I would like to probably end up this with a short story. There was a guy who wanted to get into the army, and he was pretty lean, and he did all that is required to probably get into the army. Worked out everything, and he improved. And once we got on to a selection mode, and he got selected finally. And when he joined into a particular regime, he was given a big Sten gun. And he went back to his commander and said, Commander, look at me and look at this Sten gun. How do you expect me to lift this and then use this in fighting and whatnot? So he said, you have been very staunch in your whatever that you want to do it, and able to get on to this particular level what you are today. And why are you thinking that it's not a part of you? Think that it is also a part of you, so that you don't feel the burden of it. So likewise, anybody for that matter, anything that comes in new, any new processes, anything that need to be taken in, has to be thought that it's part and parcel of their work culture, and try and see this also part of the resilience part, that the continuity part also goes in with the core area. If that goes hand in hand, I think we are there in a proactive management. Any situation can be handled without much of a chaos, as we saw in the initial 2 to 3 weeks of thing during this COVID period. And that's what I have, and I'm happy to have been given an opportunity to speak about this particular topic. Though I can keep on speaking, but in the interest of time, I'm just closing it. Thank you.
All right, sir. Hope this new full form of COVID-19 will help our viewers to learn something and work on this hard time. So, sir, thank you so much, sir, for joining. I also learned so much from you. Hope this session will be fruitful for our viewers. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. We will look forward to conduct more and more sessions with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And stay safe.
Sure, sir. Thank you.